And we're good. All right, so hello and welcome. This is the Political Perspective YouTube channel, and this is the first streaming that I'm doing. So basically, I'm just learning what I'm doing. I don't completely know what I'm doing, so we'll kind of learn as we get through this one together. So what we're going to do is work through stories that caught my interest this week, but I didn't have time to do full stories on for whatever reason. Some of them are just a little bit silly. Some of them, sorry, my Bluetooth is popping in and out. It distracted me. So some of these stories were really not important enough to merit an entire show just for that one article. Some of the articles are a little bit silly, so it doesn't make sense to do a whole article on them. And some of them are just ones that there wasn't time to get these articles covered or these news covered throughout the week. So now I'm going to go through them in a little bit more rapid manner so that we can go through and talk about these things. So one of the things that happened this week was that Trump appointed a new press secretary, McConnells. And there were two things to note about this. So one is right out of the gate. One of the first things she said is, "I will never lie to you." And big surprise, she turned around and immediately started lying to everyone. So, no matter what you consider true or false, you listen to the press briefings that have gone through so far, and you can see that clearly there's propaganda coming out. Clearly there are things that are not the truth. So a couple of things that Democrats immediately noticed about her. One, that she's completely just like the other ones. She's not going to be any more straight or do anything different than the people that came before her. And if you take a look at this picture of when she started and then a little bit later, we can see that one thing that's happening while she works for the Trump administration is that she has gotten more orange. Okay. So our next story involves two parties that I'm not really a big fan of. So we've got Walmart on one side and we've got Trump on the other. So this is a situation where you just kind of kick back and look at the two sides that don't like each other and apparently are going to go at each other. And you go, I don't really like either one of them. I don't like Walmart. I don't like Trump. So when those two start feuding with each other, it's like I just want to grab a blanket and some popcorn and cuddle up and just kind of watch what's going to happen. Apparently, Walmart, they're funding a super PAC, which released a commercial that got a lot of press this week. So let's go ahead and take a look at the commercial.
There's mourning in America. Today, more than 60,000 Americans have died from a deadly virus Donald Trump ignored. With the economy in shambles, more than 26 million Americans are out of work, the worst economy in decades. Trump bailed out Wall Street, but not Main Street. This afternoon, millions of Americans will apply for unemployment. And with their savings run out, many are giving up hope. Millions worry that a loved one won't survive COVID-19. There's mourning in America. And under the leadership of Donald Trump, our country is weaker and sicker and poorer. And now, Americans are asking, if we have another 4 years like this, will there even be an America?
Paid for by the Lincoln Project, which is responsible for the content of this advertising.
There's mourning in America.
So that's the ad in question, and as we can see, a lot of it traces back to Walmart money. Not the company itself, but the owners, the people who made money off of Walmart, are putting money into this ad campaign. And there's a lot of truth coming out in that video, right? So again, I'm not a fan of Walmart, but this is a case where the commercial they're pushing seems to be fairly straightforward because that seems to be the America that we're in right now. A lot of pain, a lot of hurting. People are unemployed. People are sick, trying to get taken care of. And the Trump administration has acted like this really wasn't a big deal all along. And then they finally got around to acting like it was a big deal. But then what they did was say, it's, we're not as bad as other countries. We could be worse. The truth is, if you just look at it objectively, this has been handled horribly and people are in pain, either financial pain, medical pain, both, whatever it is. So, I'd love to see, this was not run by Democrats. This is not a Democrat attack ad. This is coming from the right, and specifically one of the biggest investors is Walmart and this Lincoln Project, which Trump always likes to Lincoln himself to Abraham Lincoln, and he had the interview the other day in front of the Lincoln statue. People who actually like Lincoln, not real thrilled about that because it's sort of degrading, one of our greatest characters in the history of this country. So again, I just want to grab a blanket and some popcorn and kind of watch the carnage from all of this stuff. And then here we end up with, this isn't news. I just, really liked this meme, saw it on Reddit, thought, this pretty much sums things up. This pretty much sums it up, right? It's meant as a joke. This meme is a joke, right? It's listed in political humor on Reddit, but it's not really a joke because it's actually the reality that we're living in, right? It's just the reality. Anyways, we'll move on. So here we have, actually there's a story earlier this week about Trump blocking Fauci from testifying before the House. Now, he's allowed to testify before the Senate because the Senate is Republican and he knows he's only going to catch so much heat there. But Trump doesn't want Fauci going to places that are Democrat controlled. And this will actually come up later, other situations where Trump is claiming that he should only have oversight from his own team, which is ridiculous, of course, on the face of it. But here we've got now the entire task force just getting out in front of it before the House tries to go through and get everybody, right? Before they go after Birx and before they go after everyone else, Trump, they're just making it clear no one's going to be testifying. You're not going to be talking to anyone. It isn't going to happen. Okay. So, this is not transparent. Right? Part of draining the swamp that we were supposed to be doing is transparency, being able to see what happens in a situation like this. Another theme that's going to pop up through a number of these stories is, should people have closed sooner, right? That's the big question that everyone wants to know, is if we had closed a month sooner, would we be better off? Whenever that question comes up, Trump likes to go back and say, well, I did close people coming in from China, which isn't entirely true. He closed some people coming in from China, and the people coming back apparently were not quarantined or anything. Not really that big of a move. It's like he's listing one small move and saying that was his big thing. And it came up a number of times in the Trump's press briefings that he was given. Well, what if we had started a week earlier? And Birx usually came to Trump's aid and said, well, we don't really know how many people had it at that time. We're going to see, since some articles coming up, it was there. The testing was being done. We knew, or at least parts of the government, either state or federal, depending on where you're looking around the country, knew that there were cases at that time. It was wishful thinking that this stuff was going to go away. It was fear of the stock market that this stuff wasn't going to go away. And it was fear that Trump didn't need any kind of bad political news going into an election year. So instead, we have this where tens of thousands of people are dying. They're starting to have models come out, and these will get better over time. So we can't trust the models completely right now, but there are models coming out that saying even if we had shut down a week earlier, we might be able to cut this whole thing in half. So it's important that we have transparency. It's important that we understand what happened, and we can't do that if the White House is blocking the entire Corona task force from testifying before Congress. And frankly, I don't even know what they're that worried about, right? We've seen what happens when things go to Congress. We saw this with the Mueller report. We saw this with the impeachment. People can come in and say whatever they want, although most of to be fair, many of the witnesses were blocked. But even in the Mueller report, the people who did make it to the House and testify, if you sat down and listened to it, it was damning. There's no way that you're thinking that Trump should be set free after going through that. And yet he did. He got free. So what's the big deal? I guess it's because an election year and people's memories are long enough, since we're not going to be out of this pandemic by the election, that people will remember how he botched it. I guess that was the fear, but it's cost people their lives. Okay, let's take a look at this next story. So basically this story here, we've got that coronavirus, Florida. Patients in Florida had symptoms as early as January. right? So that's what I was referring to a minute ago, right? We've got the kind of summary here. Florida on Monday night removed data from the Department of Health website that showed 171 patients had coronavirus symptoms or positive test results in January and February before any cases were announced to the public. So there were cases being shown in this country in January and February. So Birx, right, she should know. Her and Fauci, if anyone knows it, those two should know it. She sat there in front of everyone being a Trump apologist and saying, well, it depends if there were people in the country in January, February, right? Fauci even kind of alluded to it a few times, but he didn't really approach it in the same way as Birx. So Birx was saying, well, yeah, what if we had shut down in February? We don't know if there were cases in February. Well, apparently we know that there were, right? Now, this is Florida. This isn't the federal government, but there was talk. These people knew what was going on. I can't believe that the federal government, that states were finding positive cases and the federal government didn't know about it. So it certainly puts a shadow over Birx and how much we can trust what she's saying. It kind of seemed early like she was just an apologist and she was trying to soften the blow and make everything seem like, like what Trump's doing is okay. And by the end of it, it was like she was just flat out trying to cover up for the mistakes that he was making. And I think this pretty much seals that case. All right, so let's take a look here. Let me see what we got. All right, great. Looks like we got someone in the chat. That's fantastic. Hey, Jesus, how you doing? Good to have you here in the stream. Glad you found the channel. All right, let's see. Let's check out the next story. So we got, okay, this one I just think is fantastic. So this is Trump goes to a mask factory, right? And he's touring the mask factory. Notice that none of them are wearing masks. This one individual is touching masks with his hands, and I believe he puts it back in with the other ones. I don't know what they ended up doing with it. Hopefully you don't end up being the person that gets the mask that this man was handling ahead of time. And Trump's looking very intently at the thing. But what happened, somebody, right, and it's not clear who did this, but while Trump was touring the facility, someone was playing Live and Let Die over the loudspeakers, right, by Guns N' Roses, which is just fantastic. Let's take a listen.
This is the material that traps the particulates.
Okay, whoever the individual was who did that, you are an American hero. You are a brilliant artist. I hope we can get to the bottom of who you are, because I hope they put you on the penny. This is amazing, right? Kudos to you. Okay. And in a slightly related story, we've got. All right, it basically leads into one of my favorite stories that I have ever read. It just gets better. Like you love it from the minute that you read the headlines here, and it only gets better, right? You think, oh, this is hilarious. No, it gets better. Okay, Axl Rose and Stephen Mnuchin and the pandemic Twitter feud no one saw coming. These two were going at each other on Twitter. Mind blown. Okay, that's all right. Let's check it out. It also starts off with one of my favorite opening paragraphs to an article I have ever read. Okay, this is the Washington Post, to make sure they're getting credit where credit is due for this amazing piece of work. So here we go. By all accounts, 2020 has been, to put it mildly, a weird year. This week alone has already seen a 5-year-old from Utah attempt a solo drive to California on a mission to buy a Lamborghini. Awesome. Okay. A llama named Winter emerges as a potential key player in the race for a treatment targeting the novel coronavirus. Okay, I haven't had time to read what that article is about, but I want to, because it sounds amazing. And Tesla chief executive Elon Musk and Canadian singer Grimes naming their newborn baby, and I don't even know how to pronounce that. I'll move out of the way so you can see it. It's an X, and then I forget what that character is called with the A and the E, and then the A12. I actually went and started reading about how they came up with that name and what it's supposed to represent, and I gave up, right? I mean, I could follow it, but it's one of those things where you start getting into the article and you realize I just don't care that much, right? You gave your baby this crazy name. It's fine. The baby's going to be a billionaire. It's not going to hurt him that much, or her, whatever. They'll be fine. Okay. But again, I love that paragraph. Amazing. All right. And then we get down to actual one of the Twitter beefs. So we've got, okay, so Axl Rose actually comes back with a bit of a comeback, but I don't even think you need the Axl Rose comeback. Why is Stephen Mnuchin asking Axl Rose what Axl Rose has done for the country lately? Axl Rose is not an elected official, and you could say, well, neither is Stephen Mnuchin. We didn't elect Stephen Mnuchin. No, but he was appointed by elected officials to help run the government. Axl Rose is a rock star, right? It's weird that a highly elected official in the federal government would be asking Axl Rose, "What have you done for the country lately?" Long ago, Axl Rose made some great music that helped a lot of us. But what has he done lately? He doesn't have to do anything, right? And one thing he's doing is criticizing the current government. So there's that. But other than that, he just has to make music, right? You, Stephen Mnuchin, you were the one who was supposed to be making the country a better place, and yet you seem to be doing the opposite. So we'll go through it. What have you done for the country lately? Stephen Mnuchin tweets. Axl Rose, my bad. I didn't get we're hoping to emulate Liberia's economic model, but on the real. Unlike the admin, I'm not responsible for 70K plus deaths, and unlike you, I don't hold a Fed Gov position of responsibility to the American people and go on TV telling them to travel the U.S. during a pandemic. Yeah, kind of nailed it, Axl, right? Axl Rose is not a government official. Axl Rose hasn't been put in place to make the government a better place. You, Stephen Mnuchin, you have, and you're doing a bad job because you're telling people to travel during a pandemic. All right, Axl Rose clearly won this one. Sorry, Stephen Mnuchin, except we're not sorry. Come on, you got to be better than that. All right, as much as I hate to leave my favorite story of all time, we'll move on. Where are we here? Okay. All right, what have we got? All right, bit of a video here. All right, let's play.
The consequences of reopening. A Centers for Disease Control estimate predicts the daily coronavirus death toll in the United States might hit 3,000 by early June. That is well above the current level of about 1,750 deaths per day. The number of new cases also projected to grow exponentially so, from 25,000 new infections per day to possibly 200,000 per day by the 1st of June. Let's discuss, and let's begin with CNN's Elizabeth Cohen. Elizabeth, when you look at this, there are some projections.
All right, let's go ahead and stop there. So we can just crunch the numbers a little bit. So first of all, remember, it wasn't that long ago that the Trump administration was saying that we should be topping out at about 80,000 deaths in the United States. That should be the total that we get to, 80,000 deaths. And then the models were shortening it to about 60,000, and now their projections are well above 60,000 again, because if we look at where we are currently, where did that go? Had it here somewhere. Here we go. So we are currently, let's go ahead and refresh this. In the United States, we're at 70,000. Let's see that number of deaths, 78,616. So we're basically right up to that 80,000 mark that was being projected for a while, except we're doing the wrong things. We're opening up. If you look on on this website where it's got the curves, look at the curve of what's happening here. Right? The curve started coming down, and then now it's starting to flatten. And we're going to see this worse in a couple of weeks because remember, the deaths always trail what's going on, and places are starting to open up. And we're actually, just in a matter of days, seeing that opening up is a huge problem, because basically what's happening is if you're in a state where you know things are going to open up in 3 days, well, you just start acting like it's open now. right? So what's happening is those deaths, instead of coming down and forming the other end of that bell curve, the downslope of that normal distribution, we're not seeing that. We're just going to level off, and they're saying that in a month from now, we're going to be looking at 3,000 deaths a day. So right now, we're looking at around 2,000 deaths a day. Oops. Sorry, I didn't have that graph up far enough. It should have been coming down in a normal curve, like making a bell curve. It's not doing that. It's leveling off. Okay, so what's happening is right now we're looking at around 2,000 people a day, right, roughly in that neighborhood. It's expected to go up to 3,000 people a day. So think about it, 30 days, so a month, roughly 30 days at 3,000 apiece. That means we're looking to lose 90,000 people in a month, 1 month. Right? We've lost 70-something up till now. We could easily lose 90,000 in 1 month. And it doesn't mean it goes to zero at the end of that month. It's going to trail off there too. We're going to see big numbers. These are the kinds of numbers that could move into the hundreds of thousands, because we're already looking, not even halfway through the month or a third of the way through the month. We've got 78,000. We could be at well over 100,000 by the end of the month. Throw on another 90,000, and then what's going to happen into July and August? So this is really not a good situation, but it could give the economy a little bit of an injection. If that's what you're worried about as like the Republicans seem to be, that's the thing that they are most worried about, then you'll get your little injection of people going back to work. We'll get thousands of people sick again, and we'll have tens of thousands of people dying. But you will get your little boost to the economy that will probably keep the Dow up for maybe even a week or so. We'll see how that works out for you. Okay. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. All right, so let's see. Let's go back down here. So we're looking at, let me catch my place here. Okay, so next story. So Trump blames Russia investigation and his impeachment for not replenishing medical supplies during his 3 years as president. So one of the things we keep hearing Trump talk about is how he was given no supply. The shelves were empty, he's saying. There was nothing there, right? Which is not exactly true. We can trace back that Trump and the Republicans were defunding the CDC, were defunding the stockpiles, were doing all these things that have weakened us to get ready for the pandemic here, right? We had a response team in place under Obama. They tried to help the incoming Trump team learn what that pandemic response team was all about. And the Trump team said, sorry, we're not interested. So Trump blames Russia investigation and his impeachment for not replenishing the medical supplies. Okay, so that's why, because people are finally getting tired of him saying it's about the last administration and saying, fine, what if the stockpiles were empty at the end of the Obama administration, which they weren't empty. Okay, there was stuff there, but let's say they were insufficient. Trump had 3 years to get it under control. 3 years. You can't, if a president serves for 4 years, you can't really blame too many things on what the president did 3 years earlier, right? So that excuse has been wearing thin, and Trump is finally saying, oh, well, the reason I couldn't have done it in the meantime was because I was being investigated so hard. How was I supposed to get any kind of work done? Which is ridiculous, because remember, most of the stuff that actually took time has been happening in the House, except the House is the one that's been passing bills. The Senate is the one that has only been appointing judges. Okay, not passing bills. The House has been passing bills. So look at the number of days that Trump has spent golfing, and he's going to say the investigations were the reason he didn't get anything done. This is ridiculous, right? And then in a related story, Trump is once again blaming Obama for not developing a test for a virus that didn't exist yet. Right? He keeps saying the tests we were left didn't work. The tests we were left didn't get the job done. They were bad tests. Well, yeah, because the tests that you were given were not for COVID-19, because COVID-19 was only discovered a few months ago, not that long ago. It just came into existence. That's why no one has an immunity to it. Okay, so yeah, how could Obama have gotten your tests ready when the virus wasn't discovered for 3 years till after he left office? And, let's face it, if Obama had tried to do something about it and build tests, do you think McConnell would have let that through? He would have obstructed it and called it a waste of money, just like you, Trump, did when you sat there and said, we fired these doctors because I'm a businessman. I don't like having doctors around when I don't need them. We'll just get them all back real fast when we need them. Yeah. You didn't get them back real fast when we needed them. You didn't. So this one's on you, okay? This one's on you. All right, U.S. drops to 45 in rankings of countries based on freedom of the press. So we like to believe we have this great freedom of press. We like to believe a lot of things about ourselves in this country. But when you take a stark look at some of the things we think we're really great at, we're maybe not so great at them. So let's take a look just so you can kind of hear. This is like a legitimate study that was done. The survey ranked 180 countries based on factors such as pluralism, media independence, media environment, and self-censorship, legislative framework, transparency, and the quality of the infrastructure that supports the production of news and information. The index is compiled via a questionnaire distributed to the experts based on both quantitative data and qualitative analysis. The U.S. dropped 2 spots on this year's list. The report specifically calls out new leadership under President Donald Trump as the driver behind the U.S.'s fall. So, first of all, this isn't just a situation where someone said, I don't like Trump, let's rank him 45th on nation's freedom of press, okay? This is a situation where they did actual, like, legitimate statistics, right? I haven't sat down and looked at the statistics themselves, but it looks like an attempt was made to do legitimate statistics, and we rank 45th in freedom of the press. We like to talk about the freedom of press we have in this country. Think again, okay? There are so many things from big business to the president himself affecting how the press is done in this country, that if you look at it objectively, the freedom of the press, we deserve to be about 45th. And let's notice we only dropped 2 spots, right? Because it says that, we were 43 before. So it's not like we were doing that good a year ago either, okay? All right, we've got McConnell's coronavirus business liability pledge sparks lobbying frenzy. So this is I actually did a video on related to this before. I had maybe a week ago and talked about this, and you've heard me on some of my other videos talking about the weakness of the Democrats and the just the pure raw evil of this comic book villain, Mitch McConnell, who will do whatever it takes to win. And people don't learn, he's going to screw you over, right? We heard Cuomo talking about it when he was telling his senators, you need to get state and local funding in the bill now. And they were saying, oh, we'll get to it later. But guess what? There's probably not going to be much of a later, because this guy right here, McConnell, is apparently smarter or meaner or eviler than the Dems that he's dealing with, because he's come out and said, yeah, well, I don't know if we're going to do anymore. We got the things we wanted. The Republicans did. That, not me, right? Him. The Republicans got what they wanted. They're not asking for a whole lot more, because it's going to cost them a lot, because the Dems didn't really get anything out of the bills that have been passed so far, right? They got a long list of things that they didn't get, from voter protections to ensuring the Postal Service is okay, to, all sorts of stuff that they ended up backing off on. And what did they really get? Nothing. People got a little bit, but people were going to get a little bit anyways, right? Trump was not going to pass a bill that didn't give people anything 6 months before a presidential election. The people were going to get something. Right? So what was it the Democrats would have got if they hadn't shown up? I think we'd have the same bill that we have now, or pretty, effectively the same thing. So here we have, McConnell's putting it out there for people to come in. He's saying, oh, we want to. So I did a video on this. What they want is they want to make sure that if you get sick at work, you cannot sue your employer. Okay. Now, it can be argued, well, why should businesses be responsible for every single coronavirus case out there? That's not what's going on. What they're talking about here is being able to sue your employer if your employer has been negligent, right? It's not just, oh, I have an employee and that employee got the coronavirus, I guess we're going to blame the company. No, this is a situation where if it looked like violations were being made, like safeguards were being ignored, then yeah, if you get coronavirus from your work because they're ignoring safeguards, you should be able to sue them. But McConnell doesn't want that, and Trump doesn't want that. They want they want a free check for these businesses to completely screw over their employers. And if you look over the history of our country, that's what the employers will do. They will screw over their workers. They screw over their workers when the economy is good. What do you think they're going to do when the economy is bad and times are hard? right? Like, look at the meat packing plants that are getting just absolutely smashed with people who are getting coronavirus for going in and working at the meat plant. And it's going to be very difficult to put safeguards in those places. But I don't think the answer is, well, it's really hard to put safeguards in a meatpacking plant, so let's just let the employees get coronavirus and make sure they can't sue the employers. Maybe what the employers who are getting a bailout need to do is figure out how to restructure their business so that they aren't killing their employees. That seems like a reasonable response to me. That seems like something that ought to work. I don't know. Just kind of makes sense. Okay, what do we got here? Articles we saw earlier could be at 100,000 by the end of the month. I think we're going to be over 100,000 by the end of the month, but it doesn't really matter. We'll be somewhere in the neighborhood of 100,000, and then it looks like in a month we're going to shoot our way up to 200,000 probably if we're losing 3,000 people a day at some point in the near future. It's going to go up, and it's going to go up fast. So you got to keep your eye on this. People want you to go out and die for the economy. I don't. I want you safe. So be aware of this stuff. All right. And then we've got Trump just in today's, tweets that didn't age well. We've got the coronavirus is very much under control in the U.S. We are in contact with everyone and all relevant countries. CDC and World Health have been working hard and very smart. Stock market starting to look very good to me. Okay, so when was that? That was February 24th, 2020. That's when a lot of people were saying, right around then or a little bit earlier is when you should have been locking things down and we'd have a whole lot less deaths, right? Stock market would probably be in about the same place as it is, but we'd have a lot less people dead. Nope. He was out there saying everything's good. No one's got the virus. Everything's under control. Nothing to see here. Nothing to see here, people. We got everything good. And most importantly of all, the stock market is looking very good. That's the number one thing that we're concerned about here on February 24th, 2020 by Donald Trump is that the stock market is looking good and that there's absolutely nothing to worry about with the coronavirus. Didn't age well, right? Wasn't good cheese. Okay. Now, another theme that we seem to have coming up. Here we go. Now I'm scrolling, right? Okay. Oh, this is one of those pages that's going to mess with me. Okay. It's not going to allow me to get this page on here. All right. Let's see what we can do about that. All right. So what we're looking at here is a situation that the title of this story, Trump says he only will submit to GOP oversight for his administration. Okay, so basically that's no oversight at all, right? That's like if I'm being, I get arrested for stealing a car and I go to the judge and I say, you know what? You can put me on trial, but the jury needs to be my friends. Then I will submit to your trial, but I want the whole jury to be friends of mine. The judge wouldn't, it's ridiculous, right? The judge wouldn't do that. That's what Trump is saying. Oh, I'll accept oversight, but it's going to be by the people that I'm trying to make money with. Well, those are the people that I want to judge whether I'm doing something wrong or not. Those are the people who I want to decide. The other people that have skin in the game and trying to make money, the people that I can enrich, the people that I can pay back by tweeting about them and fighting for them during their elections, those are the people who I want doing oversight over me. It's clearly a you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, while I fill up the jury with the people whose backs I've scratched or promised to scratch in the future. This is ridiculous. And this isn't the only time we've seen this. We've seen more of this, and we will continue to see more of this. Okay, this another one of these ones that's not quite so serious. I didn't have these ads a little while ago. Okay, so we've got Supreme Embarrassment, the flush heard around the world, CNN article. So this is just kind of a funny one. Basically what happened was the Supreme Court can't meet right now in person because of the coronavirus, right? And we've got Ruth Bader Ginsburg. We can't have her getting anywhere near the virus. She is not young, and we absolutely need her there. So to have what the Supreme Court did this week is they went online. They basically started having Zoom meetings like everyone else is doing right now. You have the Zoom meeting, and someone flushed a toilet during the Supreme Court hearings. Now, these are people are professionals, and no one lost a beat while they were going through this. Let's take a listen.
And what the FCC has said is that when the subject matter of the call ranges to the topics, then the call is transformed, and it's a call that would have been allowed and it's no longer allowed. And so I think that the content of the call.
So again, talk about professionals, right? They're in a meeting, someone flushes a toilet, nothing, not a squeak. Good on them. Good on them for being adults and not acting like a bunch of little kids. These people hold their straight face no matter what, right? Nothing gets them down. Okay, and as we just alluded to, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, hold on. Come on, you're an American hero. We need you to hold on to it. We might only need you to hold on till January, then you can retire unless it's January plus 4 years. Okay, Ruth Bader Ginsburg released from hospital after gallbladder treatment. The news comes out that she goes to the hospital and we all freeze. We're all just terrified of what this could possibly mean. We are so glad that you are doing okay, Ruth, and that you were released by the hospital. Keep being an American hero. Keep fighting for everybody. We need you up there, and we need you doing the great work that you've done your whole career. All right, Arizona responds to projected rise in COVID-19 cases by ordering experts to stop making models. What? So you're the government, and you don't like the news and the science that's coming out, and your response is to stop the science. Your response isn't to say, oh, maybe we need to put people on lockdown again. Nope, economy's too important. We have to make those sacrifices to the economy in order to keep it paying all of us. So what they said was, okay, stop doing the science. This is nothing new. This is right out of the Republican playbook, right? The CDC has been forbidden from investigating gun deaths. Right? It's actually within their it sounds like, it says Center for Disease Control. They study a number of things about deaths, right? So like they'll do reports on suicides and stuff like this because they're really trying to figure out what's causing a lot of these deaths. They were banned by the Republicans from investigating anything related to guns, not allowed to do that. And then we've had the situation since Trump came into office where there has been a big purge on climate change. So all of these, the truth is the Republicans want to deny climate change, but when you go in there and you talk to these groups, the military doesn't deny climate change. In fact, the military is saying it's one of the biggest threats to American defense in the decades to come, right? So all the parts of the government don't deny it. It's just this Republican weird thing that you hear sometimes. But Trump has gone through and his administration, and they've made it so that a lot of the climate change information that was coming out of our government is now not being released. It's not being conducted. It's not being released. So again, when the science comes out that you don't like, you stop the scientists. You silence the scientists. That is not a world that I want to live in, right? We need scientists. We need the smart people doing their work. Right? Not the dumb people running the country. We need the smart people doing real work, letting us know what's going on. So, bad move, Arizona. And it stands to reason that some of these states that are making these unsound decisions in relation to the virus, they're probably not going to do real well. They're probably going to have some deaths going on, right? Okay, and then I just can hardly stand to look at this smug smirk that this guy has and listen to what he was saying while he has this smug smirk on his face, right? He's basically being asked about his future. Let's just let it speak for itself. Let's take a look at it.
Inside the Department of Justice, the Attorney General said he was obligated to drop the charges against the president's former national security advisor.
Our duty, we think, is to dismiss the case.
It's a stunning turn of events for Flynn, who in December 2017 pleaded guilty to lying to the FBI about his discussions with the Russian ambassador after the presidential election. Flynn was ultimately fired by the president about 3 weeks into the job, having also lied to the vice president about his contacts with the Russians.
Flynn lied, and it's like they ruined his life. It's very unfair.
But the department's filing says the FBI's interview with Flynn was unjustified and done without any legitimate basis.
A crime cannot be established here. They did not have a basis for a counterintelligence investigation against Flynn at that stage.
Does the fact remain that he lied?
Well, people sometimes plead.
So let's pause it right there and talk about that for a second. So this claim is, in my opinion, ridiculous. So the idea is, if you conduct an investigation incorrectly, you can't do illegal things to create a legal case by the government. So it's like reading you your rights when you're arrested, right? You're supposed to read them the rights, because if you read someone their rights and then because they didn't know they had the right to remain silent, they go ahead and reveal information, then you can't use that information in court. So that's kind of a roundabout argument they're trying to make, which was, well, some mistakes were made in the beginning, so nothing that happened after that can count. Okay, let's remember, Flynn admitted to what he did. He pled guilty. He made it clear, yeah, I committed these crimes. Now, you could say, well, that's still wrong, right? From a legal standpoint, that's still wrong if that information that forced him to plead guilty was obtained in illegal ways. And that is true from a legal standpoint, but it's not at all clear that's what's going on here. This is spin to put it in a situation that it shouldn't have been happening because some people think Comey had an axe to grind. Come on. The whole Mueller investigation is full of people doing things related to Trump that came out about this investigation. This is pretty hard to swallow. Okay, there's more. There's more to come.
Plead to things that turn out not to be crimes.
What should Americans take away from your actions in the Flynn case today?
I want to make sure that we restore confidence in the system. There's only one standard of justice.
President Trump, who has long claimed that Flynn was railroaded, called him a hero.
He was an innocent man.
Are you doing the president's bidding?
No, I'm doing the law's bidding.
You know you're going to take a lot of incoming, as they say in the military, for this decision.
I'm prepared for that. But I also think it's sad that nowadays these partisan feelings are so strong that people have lost any sense of justice.
Flynn welcomed the news with a tweet of his grandson. And former FBI Director Jim Comey, who started the investigation into the president, voiced his displeasure on Twitter, saying the department had lost its way. When history looks back on this decision, how do you think it will be written?
Well, history's written by the winner, so it largely depends on who's writing the history.
So there again, we've got that smirk. Well, he's basically giving our entire country the middle finger. So just a moment ago, he said, oh, I'm trying to, I forget his exact words. He wants to get the American people to regain confidence in the legal system. And then when she calls him out on it, he says, oh, well, history is written by the victors, right? And then this evil laugh. Like, what that means when we talk about history being written by the victors is that all the bad stuff gets eliminated and all the other stuff gets spun into a way where it looks like whoever's winning had a good reason for doing that. It doesn't mean that they had a good reason. It means when you win, you get to decide how the story is written. It is not a good thing. Right? This is not a thing to brag about and be proud of. He's not saying, oh, well, he could. It's like, why would he even say that? It's like he's just putting it in our face. He's rubbing our face in it that he doesn't care. He's committing these crimes in the open, and you know what? The victors get to write the history. So, in other words, they're going to get to write their own history, and of course, they'll write it in their favor. Okay, so this is absolutely disgusting, and he's smirking and laughing the whole time. He's basically saying, yeah, we're sticking it to you, American people. We're sticking it to you, and then we're going to write about how good it was that we stuck it to you, right? This guy is part of that evil trinity. We got Trump, Barr, and McConnell, all of which are absolutely destroying our country, and they need to be gone, like now. Okay. We're getting there. So Pelosi endorses $2,000 every month to everybody in the next $2 trillion COVID-19 response bill. We'll see. We'll see. In the bills that were passed so far, Pelosi, you weren't able to get really, in my opinion, anything. All the things that you asked for, and you did not get them, right? I have some notes here from earlier, from stuff I was working on. What were the Democrats asking for early on in these things? They were asking for no layoffs for the duration of the crisis. Didn't get that. It got bumped down to 6 months. So these companies can take massive, massive bailouts. They can't fire more than 10% of their workforce for 6 months. Guess what's going to happen 6 months in one day? We're going to see another huge spike in unemployment as these companies started addressing their bottom line. Not the people, not the workers, their bottom line. All right, Democrats were asking for a $15 minimum wage. Didn't get that. Worker board representation. Well, why should the workers be on the board when it's private companies, right? It's private companies being bailed out by the federal government, which is really funded by the people. Half the time now, these corporations don't even pay their taxes. It's basically funded by the American people. So yeah, the workers should have a stake in the company. Of course they should. Equity stake in exchange for funds. Yeah, the government should own parts of the company. That's what we did 12 years ago, and it actually worked out great, helped pay for a lot of the thing. Okay, but now we've just decided it should just be the people. We really need money from the middle class and poor people in this country. It's really important that their money flows to the rich and flows to the CEOs and flows into the companies. That's the most important thing. Okay. Postal voting? No. Didn't get that through. Voting safeguards? No. Didn't get that through. Renewable funding energy, like an infrastructure type bill, which Trump has actually talked about at different times. He's brought up infrastructure, right? The Democrats want people working. We've done this before in our country. This is not the first time we've done this. This is, have a bit of a history lesson. We played this out before, and it worked really well, right? We ended up with great infrastructure in our country, which, let's face it, the boomers have ignored. They haven't been rebuilding they just thought it magically appears there, and didn't keep it up, didn't keep maintaining that infrastructure, which is now falling apart. And we have people who need jobs, right? So let's figure out how to put those two things together, the need of those two needs, and fit them together. But I'm doubtful that this can happen, that Pelosi's going to pull this off. They got nothing out of the earlier bills, which puts the Democrats in a weaker position because the Republicans already got most of what they wanted, right? They can still get some icing on the cake, and they'll still try to get out as much as they can. But the Democrats have shown that they are not good at getting this kind of stuff done. And to think that Pelosi, yeah, sure, she'll endorse it, but is this actually going to happen? I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm on here in a couple of weeks saying how wrong I was. I doubt it. When was the last time the Democrats had a big win and actually achieved something for the people? Obamacare? That's got some problems, right? So go for it, Pelosi. I hope you do it. I hope you pull it off. Okay, we'll see about that. We'll see. Okay, so that's the stories that sort of slipped through the cracks for this week. Again, some of them silly, some of them not important enough to be their own story, some of them just connected to earlier stories. I actually just had a ton of fun. That was a total blast to go through and do that. So I'm learning a lot on these live streams. I will try, as I learn more about how to do this, to be a little bit more interactive with the people who are in the streams. I'm learning the software that can, award points and stuff like that for being in there. And I've got some ideas for when I start covering live events, right? When there's press briefings and debates and stuff like that, and I start covering those in a live stream. I've got some ideas about how I can make the live stream a little bit more interesting, a little bit more interactive for the people who are involved. I'm working on this software. We can set up polls, set up, some betting, some different kind of stuff, not with real money, like fake money, but some kind of fun stuff to make the debates and make the press briefings a little more interesting as I move in to start covering those. So thanks a lot, right? This was a blast. I'll try to let you guys know when I'm going to do some future live streaming so you can show up, be a part of it, and we'll kind of do all this together. I think it'll be really interesting. So thanks a lot. Make sure to subscribe so you can check out all that new content as it becomes available. Thanks a lot. We'll see you in the future.